one of my fellow pen people and watchers of YouTube channel has asked me to draw with him today. So I'm going to do that. I just bought myself a screen protector for this device because there's a big crack that goes right down the middle from side to side. 9.7 inches worth of crackage. And now the screen protector, I don't think it would have protected it against the trauma that it got. I think I rolled over on it and bent it. And so consequently, it broke, cracked. But my little stylus kept hitting the crack, and I didn't want it to chip and get worse or to disturb my line flow. So I bought a screen protector, and now I'm waiting for Cedar to jump on board. And once he does, I'm going to go grab another pen or two, because one pen is never enough. So Cedar, click on the button. Do you see the link I sent? Yes, it is in the chat. I'm going to send it to you in parts if you don't see it. That's the second part. The first part is StreamYard.com/ StreamYard.com/. So after the StreamYard.com/ hit QK5URB, etc., etc. Do you see those? If you don't see it, I'll start a new one. Some fishes I've been making out of a Domino's pizza box. This one's saying yes, this one is undecided. How you doing there, Cedar? I'm going to have to run to the grab some more pens, but I wanted to have you be online first so you could doodle and chat while I'm grabbing those. I did not plan ahead enough. Oh, hi, Carson. Thank you. It's a wall pen. Ah, here's Cedar. Okay, great. Add to stream. Hello, young man.
Hey Pierre, how's it going? I'm just trying to get myself set up here.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
trying to
gonna.
figure out how to look at the chat, see the chat window, and okay, I see it's a little bit lagged.
I see.
That's interesting. And
Okay.
then I have echo, but I think I got it all together now.
If you close the YouTube and hear what's happening through StreamYard, through Safari or Chrome, you won't have an echo.
Right, right. Well, also if I mute YouTube, right?
Or you could mute YouTube, maybe.
Cool. Yeah, I think that'll work.
Okay. And what about turning your camera? Not that we don't want to see your pretty face. That's always important.
Well, I still haven't made one of those contraptions that you taught me to make. I don't have wire hangers. I gotta pick up a couple from I don't know, drugstore or something. And then I gotta figure out my phone enough to figure out how to make it
go
the
to
screen stay on.
any dry cleaner will have, or laundry will have, thousands of these hangers that they'd be more than happy to give you.
Good idea. Yeah, there's actually one not too far from the house. I should just run over there and grab a couple.
And another thing that I'm using right now is just essentially, it's not it's this. Oops, it's these shelves, and I just put the iPad here aiming down, which I could do with my phone. And rather than this funny thing with these little drawers, I could use 6 Encyclopedia Britannicas just stacked on top of each other. So you could do that. Or cinder blocks, or anything that's flat and heavy.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. That's yeah, I noticed like when I have to figure out how to do that in a way where the camera is pointing the direction I want.
What are you using right now as your camera?
This is my laptop.
Laptop, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever used your phone?
I haven't figured out how to use the phone.
For that purpose? Okay.
No.
And you don't have an iPad?
I don't have an iPad.
Well,
the iPad sounds like the best scenario because you have that big screen and everything.
It's you need to get a relatively new one because the older ones will not work. So, but it is handy because you can see easily. The iPhone is kind of tiny, but that it can work.
Even my iPhone is not very new. It's like it's in basically a 6S, so I'm not sure that it's new enough. It's starting to have some battery issues, so
Okay. Well, I think
mine's
mine's a 6 as well, and it works okay. There's another contraption that you can probably make or buy cheaply, and it's a mirror that it's a 45-degree angled mirror that you hook to the back of your lid of your laptop, and then the camera will show what's on your keyboard or on your table, So, and that's an easy way to do it too, but I don't know what those are called.
Well, that's pretty cool.
But it's essentially making a little periscope out of out of your um, out of your iPad. But how did you do it before? We were doing
Well,
before.
I just tilted the laptop up like this,
Okay.
but then I you know, like, I don't know if I like the angle of the orientation onto the paper. You know, it should be like this, I think,
It should
you
be,
know,
but that's okay. I
like
mean,
this, right?
we're just going to be doodling, and so it's not. I don't think it'll make that much difference if we see your drawing sideways, right?
Yeah, maybe I can sort of rig the thing up to do it like this, but it's hard for me to see the page,
That's
you
hard.
know?
Hard also to see what I'm drawing when it's tilted like that. When you're, doing that.
It's from a
So,
side angle, so I don't know if that
and
would
that would be perfect,
make
right? Where
people
you've got
crazy.
no.
Okay, I can hook that up. I can figure that out. I just gotta move my printer over,
Okay.
and that'll work.
Okay. Well, you work on that. I'm going to grab a couple more pens,
Okie
and
dokie.
I'll be right back.
Doesn't really get the whole page in there. Let's see if I go back more. Not the best scenario. Not the worst, maybe. Probably the worst. Let's see. Maybe if I zoomed out like that. That's better. That. If I could do something like that. Still don't get the whole thing in. I could do upside down, maybe. Go like this. Watch me draw upside down. That could work. Maybe upside down's the way to go. Some shoes there. Okay. Let's try that. I don't know if anybody is watching right now, but yeah, it's sort of a little bit of an unconventional way to put together a YouTube video, to have like things be so a little bit chaotic and a little bit random in the way that things are being set up. So hey, Pierre, I
Chaos
was
and
talking.
randomness.
Yeah, I was talking to anybody who is listening. You know, like the way we're working here, it's like very not like the usual YouTube video, you know, because it's pretty chaotic. You know, it's like most YouTube videos are like they're set up, you know. It's like
Yep.
you're set up and you're ready to go. I'm trying to move that, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. I had this other idea, so I'm trying to play around with that.
Right.
Yeah, I've been enjoying your videos with Wasky Squirrel. They've been really fun to see Minneapolis and stuff. I've never been there. I don't know anything about Minneapolis.
Well, that makes two of us.
Didn't you grow up there? I thought you grew up there.
I did grow up here, but I stayed most of my life in bed or under the bed, rather. I was, I didn't learn how to drive a car until quite late, and I just didn't. I didn't have this desire to go places and see things. So it became new to me after I left. But I see it in sort of dribs and drabs here. So
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, you know, and I feel like I know Los Angeles like the back of my hand, more or less, because I spent so much time there as a kid and even most of my adult life too.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm living over in Ventura, which is sort of like a beach town about 60 miles from LA.
Uh-huh.
And I really love it out here. Boy, is it nice. It's it's a lot more peaceful in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is really chaotic, and
Yeah.
Ventura is more of a small town and more relaxing.
Yeah.
I can't really handle Los Angeles anymore. I'm kind of toast. It burns my nerves up.
Well, I I think you and Wasky are sort of on the same page. You like things a little slower or quieter,
Definitely.
and um, he was a good sport when he was here because he was dealing with my driving, and it was fine except there's always road construction happening around here, and uh, so some of the areas that I had planned to go with him, I went my usual way, but to find out that I had to do detours and stuff. But the main trauma was that I kept forgetting that his car was a uh, was a manual, not an automatic. So he kept on saying very politely, "You can shift now," because I was on the highway in first gear.
Oh
So,
my God.
well, I wasn't quite on the highway, and it wasn't quite first gear, but it was certainly second gear on when it should have been in third. Yes.
Get those RPMs going.
Yeah.
I used to have a stick shift when I was in high school. I guess it was right after high school. I had a Volkswagen van for a minute,
Uh,
and I really loved that car. It was really a fun, funky car. It didn't never ran right, but it was just
it was an adventure
it
because
was.
you would get from point A to point B, uh, and so of course it was fun.
Well, I have this laptop kind of put together in a very slipshod manner. It could just fall at any minute. But it works, and you can see the whole page, so that's exciting.
Good.
I just got to figure out a way to make it a little more secure so I don't accidentally destroy my laptop.
Well, there's duct
But
tape and weights and
yes,
pillows and
all good ideas. That's neat that you're out in a boat and stuff too. I guess your family likes to do a little sailing or whatever.
well, my dad introduced me to sailing when I was in second grade, I think, or third grade. And I always loved it. And my little brothers, when they were at that time, um, they, and into the time I went to college, I guess, and even afterwards, they were interested in girls, that kind of stuff. No, they were interested in skiing and power boats and stuff, and not interested in sailing. And subsequent to them getting to be old men, and they're still interested in girls or women, I should say. I mean, they never weren't, but they aren't water skiers anymore, and they really love sailing, which they hated to do when I was the captain of the boat. But they like doing it now. So uh, uh, we, Todd, my brother has, I don't know, two or three sailboats,
Wow.
And one's on the lake in central Minnesota where we have our summer house, and the other one is on a lake here in Minneapolis where he races. And that's what we had hoped to do with Wasky, because we were, planning on racing that day, but the forest fire haze from Canada or your neck of the woods or something was causing the air quality to be very unhealthy to people that were outside, but it didn't bother us. We just went sailing. But they didn't have a race because the yacht club is, I guess, legally responsible for making sure the conditions are safe. They won't let you sail if there's thunder and lightning, or if the winds are too high. So, and you'd think that, and most sailors love winds that are high, but if it seems like it could be dangerous, they'll cancel the race. So
here, I'm going to grab some tape.
okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I just don't want my laptop to fly down.
I'll draw a fish as you do that, because
Cool.
that's what I do. I draw a fish.
Yeah, I love all this fish stuff. It's nice to just pick a singular subject and really
beat it to
do
death.
it. Yes, beat it to death. Exactly. I like to do that too.
Yeah.
It's like almost a meditation on a certain thing.
I tell people that this is my, my brother says, why are you making fish all morning? You watch sailing videos, which he loves to watch on YouTube, and I draw fish. This is my sailing video. So shut up and let me draw my fish.
Exactly. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sort of trying to basically stop collecting pens.
Well, that's not the right attitude to take on my channel.
I just, I would love to just, just continue to collect these things, but it's like, I have to look at like, well, do I really need any more? And, am I being financially responsible? Just, buying so many pens? Like I have to kind of take these things into consideration,
Okay.
And
Well, okay.
I have a wide variety of different nibs and different pens, and like at this point, I mean, there are some I still would want, potentially, and I'm always tempted by, but I don't know if I really need it.
Need has nothing to do with it. Okay, so Cedar, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a little thought experiment here. Okay, so here's Cedar Cedar wakes up one morning and he says, "No more pens." And then he leaves the house with his, $20 in his pocket because he's going to do something different with his money, and he buys as much crack and cocaine as he possibly can on the street. And so, which is better, to spend it on drugs or to spend it on pens?
Well, definitely pens in that particular
Okay,
scenario.
let's try another scenario. let's try something else. Okay.
Well, like spending your money on your car, your groceries, your clothes. I don't
Yeah.
really necessarily love spending my money on those things. I
Well,
love to spend my money on pens, but
well,
I need to spend my money on those things, like because uh, it's just life. I have to,
you have to look pretty, and
well,
you have to be well fed. Yes, I understand that.
I don't actually care that much about so much looking pretty, but like, clothes wear out.
Yes.
Eventually you got to buy some new shirts, you got to buy some new socks, you got to buy some new underwear. And then, yes, I would rather buy some more pens, but
Well, socks
so,
and, socks and underwear, won't get you too many pens. So unless you buy the really fancy crotchless panties from Fredericks of from Holland. So, but somehow I don't think you're that kind of a. I don't imagine you as having frilly, frilly undergarments. But
no, I'm a totally functional dresser.
okay,
I never learned how to have style.
okay. Well, one of the things that we did with Wasky, which he did not mention in his video, but it was really quite fun, is he had told me that one of the things he needed to do when he got back to North Dakota was to go clothes shopping because he hadn't bothered to do it much in the last year because of COVID, and so he had a budget that he wanted to save up for and stuff, and I said, well, I tell you what, let's go to back to my parents' house, my dad's house. And my father was in the clothing business.
Oh, neat.
And so for years, almost the only clothes that I ever wore were hand-me-downs because both he and my brother and I were relatively the same size. And so I'd get hand-me-downs from both of them. And they weren't 25 years old and worn out. They were maybe 2 years old and uh, hardly worn because they'd have to keep buying new things to wear and stuff. So we and my brother, had three big bags of things that he was going to donate to, Goodwill or something. And the clothes that he was going to give to Goodwill were quite a bit above Goodwill's normal fare. Um, Wool pants and beautiful shirts. And my brother was very upset with me because I laundered a cotton shirt. And he said, well, you're supposed to dry clean that one. And I said, well, why? He said, that's a $200 shirt. And I said, a what? $200 shirt, cotton shirt. And so anyway, we ended up having a little fashion show for Wasky. He got a really, really nice outerwear sort of windbreaker that I don't think my father ever wore, but it was my dad's. And he got some really nice sweaters and a couple of shirts. Um, and so he doesn't have to do his shopping. So what you have to do, Cedar, is come out here and go through the closets. And
Oh, well,
yeah,
that sounds kind of fun.
and
I'm
you
kind of a weird size. I'm very tall and thin,
okay.
so I don't fit a lot of things.
How tall are
I'm 6'6".
Well, of course you're 6'6", and you probably weigh 185 pounds.
That's
What?
exact. I just got weighed at the doctor yesterday,
Okay.
and I weighed 185 pounds.
You must be
He
really,
picked it
really,
exactly. I don't know how
really,
you managed to do that.
really, really, really skinny.
Yeah, I'm very thin. Yeah, I've always been very thin. When I was a little boy, I was looked like a little skeleton. I'm kind of like just one of those people. Like my dad's like that too. He's just really, really thin.
Yeah.
I have that ectomorph body.
Yeah. I've got two of those, but they're in one person. I've got two of your bodies, but they're in one space. So, oh, pants are overrated, says Will. So,
Oh, some people are commenting.
well, Will,
Yeah, I don't have the chat up, so I can't tell.
well, as you probably know from watching my channel enough, that clothing is optional for visitors.
Yes.
And wearing pants, Friedrich and Will are the sort of pants-free kind of
Oh, nice.
guys. As your host, I feel obligated to be clothed, but sometimes.
Well, you can get away with not wearing pants and doing a broadcast like
Well,
this.
it's
You know,
I don't need to wear a shirt or anything if all you're seeing is my hands. But occasionally, you've got not wardrobe malfunctions, but you have your laptop falling down and landing on the floor, looking right up at you, and your dangling participles. So we do want to keep it safe for children.
oh, for sure. You don't want a faux pas like that.
Yeah. Well, I understand your desire to spend money wisely, but we've already decided that you're not going to waste it on drugs, and you're not going to be spending too much of it on clothing, expensive clothing. So, and food, it seems like to maintain your thinness, you don't need to eat a lot, but of course I know your metabolism is one that probably is very demanding of food.
Actually, lately, I'm not as, I eat, but I'm not hungry all the time or anything.
Yeah.
I've gotten into jogging more recently, and I found that I really feel a lot better since I've been jogging. I'm not doing it for weight loss or anything like that, just
No.
for cardiovascular health and whatnot. And I really feel like it makes a difference.
Very good.
I just do it a couple times a week, but yeah. Yeah, but no, I do still want to get a pen from you because I want a peer pen. I want a pen to, because I always pick up that pen and be like, oh, this is the peer pen.
Okay. Well, we'll get
This
one
is
for
my
you.
friend Pier's pen.
We'll get one for you. Certainly. How are you enjoying your animation app?
Well, I would think it's really fun.
Uh-huh.
Lately I have not been doing it because whatever reason at work I've been very busy, and then actually I haven't been busy in the last week or so, almost a week, not quite a week. But I was going to go on a really fun vacation with Brian up to Nevada City in Northern California for a wedding,
Yeah.
and he got breakthrough COVID.
Oh.
So Yeah, so it dashed all our plans, but I still had the time off. I was a little worried that I might have COVID too. So I was taking some really strong precautions to not spread it. I didn't have any symptoms or anything, but still, because I'm fully vaccinated, he's fully vaccinated, but he got it. So I felt like I could have got it. I had been exposed to him, but I didn't get any. I took the home test. You can get a home test from the drugstore now. So I took that and it was negative, and then I went to the doctor and he gave me the hardcore test, that's more accurate. And that just came back negative today. So I guess I didn't catch it. So grateful for that, And
Good for you.
he's a little
Well,
worried his dad caught it because he lives with his dad. His dad smokes and stuff. He has some, riskier, he's in a riskier profile
I see.
health wise. So hopefully he didn't get it. But Brian does work as an ICU nurse, and so he gets a very high degree of exposure where most people wouldn't. And there's been a new wave of COVID that's come out in the last month or so. So it's been really busy there too with COVID people and what have you. And a lot of people aren't vaccinated, so they're getting a lot of unvaccinated people with COVID. And the occasional breakthrough COVID case too, like what Brian has going on.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well,
I just hope they don't lock everything down again. Because I mean, if it's necessary, it's necessary, but it's just so unpleasant.
yeah. Well, I went to the grocery store and to the hardware store the other day to get stuff, and I still feel funny being walking around without a mask.
Well, I
And
recommend wearing one. If you're in an indoor
yeah,
space, wear it because this latest variant, the vaccine is maybe it will work, maybe it won't work.
yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
I'll try to do that. Try to
yeah,
remember to do that.
yeah. I know that's the thing is remembering it too. Like I had to remind myself to put a mask because I have roommates. I had to remember every time I left my room, I had to remind myself to put the mask on because I didn't know if I had COVID or what,
Yeah,
and I didn't want to expose anybody in here. So what I ended up doing is just hanging my mask on my doorknob so I would never forget to put it on as I left to go to the kitchen or some other place.
yeah.
That worked well. But yeah, I'm having to train myself again to put on a mask when I go into an indoor space. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think outdoors you're safe. I don't think there's a lot of risk outdoors unless you're right face to face with somebody and they're yelling at you or something.
Uh-huh.
I've been
Well,
really enjoying just scribbling, lately. I
yeah.
just want to just do scribble, scribble, scribble. It's just relaxing.
Well, scribbling there's a lot to be said for scribbling. Um, One of the things that I um, was looking forward to meeting Wasky in person was to see how heavy-handed he was, because I really felt by looking at the way his writing samples worked that he was quite heavy-handed in how he uh, how he wrote, and it turns out he really is. He's quite heavy-handed, and so I thought he might benefit from trying to lighten up a little bit. And someone on his channel was sort of telling me that I should let people write the way they want to, and I wasn't trying to change his writing, but as he is a sort of a reviewer of pens,
Yeah.
and if you press down heavily on a pen that says extra fine, of course it's going to be broader than extra fine. Some of the extra fineness is by really, really having a light touch. You can't expect the nib to do all the work. You have to be rather light.
Well,
But
and that's one of the benefits of using a very stiff nib is that if you want an extra fine and you don't want it to change, it'll hold your line. It doesn't matter how hard you push on it. But if you have one of those really delicate, wonderfully flexible nibs with an extra fine, it's
yeah,
pretty easy to always have too thick of a line unless you're really learn how to have a very,
yeah.
it's a skill.
But even a stiff nib can be held lightly and will make a lighter line. So
Right.
but
Good
I
point.
also was a little bit surprised that Wasky was not pressing down as hard as he might, and because he was afraid of harming the pen. And I said, well, these pens are meant to do this. So, but again, all of this is Pierre Gustafson handling the pen in his brutish way, where I'm drawing very big and scribbling and stuff. And if I'm not writing words on lined paper, which is, what he and most other people do. My handwriting is much less delicate when I'm constrained like that.
Yeah.
I I I sort of get tense and I clam up and because I'm writing words and words are important. I'm not just scribbling and doodling, drawing fish. I'm saying things, I'm writing things that might have important meaning somewhere down the line to someone. And of course, my writing is going to not look as relaxed.
Yeah, I would say 90% of what I do with pens is scribble and draw. Like 10% is writing. But I'm trying to do the alphabet because I do love letters and I like writing a lot. I don't have a lot to say with
Yeah,
words like that written on a page,
yeah,
but I think letters have their own beauty.
they
And
do.
I think you can appreciate that as a calligrapher. You're such a good
Yeah,
calligrapher and
thank
a letterer. I love the fonts and the way you organize. Like there was something on, I watched Wasky's Pens in Use just before we logged on, his most recent one, and he shows these directions you send him to how to get to his house. It was
you. Yeah,
really neat with the little text, beautiful little text and
uh,
this and that, and really cool. And also he showed a neat little advertising card for a watch shop in town that was really great. It's like a
yeah,
watch, and you flip it open, and it has the information for the man in
yeah.
his store. Pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah, the watch. Wesky didn't explain all of the quote subtleties of the watch, but the outer casing, what would it be? The outside hunter's case of the watch had his Marshall Firster's initials as well as American Vintage initials. And then you open up the back of it, showing the works. And MF is also part of the cutaway in the working elements. So, but that's something that I don't think, I pointed out to Wasky. So it's something that might not have been obvious to him or anyone unless you sort of pointed out. But Yeah, I think Waskey did on his more recent, or one of his most recent pens in use one, he was doing the light touch routine, which and it was really amazing to see how fine the lines he was able to get with that. But again, if you're thinking so hard about making sure you're not pressing down too hard, or you have to lighten up more, you're going to forget about what you're saying. You're going to, it has to, when you're writing words, the words are the most important thing. So don't do anything that's going to interrupt your ability to convey your message.
I agree. I mean, it is words. I'm my one of my secrets is that I'm a terrible speller. And that's a real problem when you're trying to like write stuff, and you misspell it. It's just God.
Well, the spelling stuff is I'm horrible as well, but even if I spelled correctly all the time, my handwriting is horrible. So only I can read it, and only if I try to read it about a minute after I write it. If it's 2 days later, what the hell was I even trying to say here?
So then, when you do calligraphy and whatnot, and you're doing a piece, it's a whole other kind of mindset than when you're just writing whatever.
Well, I'm not writing. I'm not having to think of the words to write. I'm just copying the address of
Oh,
someone I don't know who lives in a city that I'll never visit. I'm just taking dictation. I'm not. And then my hand automatically knows how to make an SON or a MR period ampersand MRS period. I've done them thousands of times, so I don't even have to spell Mr. and Mrs. It just goes into automatic pilot sometimes. But when I'm actually sitting down in a blank piece of paper and I have to write someone a note or decide how am I going to word this so it isn't insulting, or how am I going to say this so they understand what I'm trying to get them to say yes to, so that requires a completely different part of my brain than to make things look pretty. So making things look pretty is a lot easier than writing things that are important for me.
yeah, yeah, I can relate. I mean, I don't know if I'm always good at making things look pretty, but I try. I try
Well,
sometimes. Yeah.
you may all of the lines you make are pretty. They're all very calligraphically done. Your drawings are made of beautiful doodles. Looking at the actual, we'll call them figures, humanoid-y like. I mean, your drawings, if I can say this, if you were to take a chest of drawers, a gumball machine, and a human, and somehow mated them and made an offspring, that's what they look like. I mean,
Yeah, I
is
think
that
that there's some. Yeah, that really kind of sounds right to me. Somehow.
I mean, you love to take a figure and put it through the bandsaw. You cut it into sections longitudinally, and then you put big feet on them, and sometimes they're both right feet. So, but anyway, they're really, really fun. Uh, and, if you were to bring this creature to the hospital and put him in front of a x-ray machine, the bones won't make any sense or internal organs wouldn't fit, but they don't have to because they're cartoon-like drawings and they're beautifully done, I think. And if they were real, actual creatures, maybe they wouldn't be as beautiful as funny looking, but that's not the point, really. You're not drawing real things, right?
That's true. That is true. Not drawing anything real. I like to practice drawing real things some more. I used to really like to do plein air drawings, or paintings and stuff. I kind of fell off the wagon with that, and I just kind of just draw my own interior world all the time now.
Yeah.
But there's real benefit to drawing objectively, and not
Well,
just always drawing subjectively.
drawing, when you and I were drawing beautiful Apollo the other day, it was really fun because, he was on Zoom with us and taking poses, and we were both drawing him, and you did beautiful renditions. And the drawing you did of the lemon over and over and over again recently was also really quite lovely. I
Oh,
thought.
thanks, Pierre. Yeah, I'm looking forward to life drawing workshops opening up again. They may already opened up over here, but I really like to draw the figure like in person. I find it actually kind of hard to draw things looking at the screen of the computer. I'm not too sure why that is. I have an easier time even with just like a flat picture or something like that.
Yeah. Well, drawing real people is always better than drawing a picture, but sometimes when you're drawing actual people, you get distracted. Shall we say? Can we say that on live TV here? I mean, not just in the bad way that I'm implying, but you start talking to the person, and you start listening to their story. Normally a professional model wouldn't be yammering on, but sometimes when you're drawing one-on-one with someone, as I quite often do, you do talk about all sorts of stuff, and then your mind wanders and you don't end up doing the drawing that you had hoped to do. So going to a professional life drawing class thing would be beneficial, if to just get that practice in that you want.
Well, it's interesting that some of the models are just so skillful in their ability to hold a pose
Yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah, I used to go to this one over in LA when I lived in San Gabriel area. And they would get some models that are just amazingly skillful at what they do. And it's always just kind of blown away. Like, how can you stay in that position for even 5 minutes and be so still? But a lot of them have been doing it a long time, and they have just,
Well,
it's a matter of practice and whatnot.
yeah, they know how to, very slightly maybe change the balance from one leg to another so they don't, the legs don't fall asleep or whatever. And it's enough to where you don't notice it, when you're drawing. You can't be perfectly still. You do move a little bit, but there's people like Apollo, who is also a sculptor in real life, and the poses he takes are just magnificently beautiful and very complex. And then there's other people who like to pose, and they couldn't be more boring if they tried. Could you try to be more boring? Uh,
Yeah, I tend to, like when I'm drawing a figure, I mean, I know like sort of, like I feel like the sort of life drawing you kind of enjoy like maybe more of an erotic kind of life drawing, which I
uh,
think is cool. And I've been curious about doing that too myself, but I find that I'm not so interested in erotic life drawing. I'm more interested in like studying how different parts of the body connect and
yeah.
how different like shading aspects that create volume and tone happen, whereas I'm not so interested. I don't necessarily really like drawing genitals particularly all that
Uh,
much,
okay.
even though, I think it's cool and, you know, uh,
Well, you
there's
can't.
lots of interesting erotic art out there. Don't get me wrong.
uh, Well, they they're there as just as much as the left ear is. That left nut or that left boob is as real a thing to render as the left ear is. So if you treat them all sort of as just another body part on the Mr. Potato Head you're drawing, um, it'll be fine. They have just as much shading and anatomy and connective tissue as the other elements. Um, Oftentimes, though, um, the poses or the message in an erotic piece gets in the way of appreciating anything other than the erotic element of it, I guess.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
can, you know, there's sort of a Johnny one noteness to a lot of erotic art, whereas I think good art that might be erotic is also good to begin with. It has, you know, lovely composition. Um, the artist uh, is is taking account of all of the elements that he sees in front of him, not just the two or three things that he's interested in normally. Um, I've done drawings of people that are posed very erotically, shall we say? Can I say that on TV? And and the thing as I'm drawing it and I put the thing together, I realize the actual interesting part of this drawing is the left ear. And it's the way the light is coming through the left ear. So the left ear is bright red, and the shadow on the uh, kneecap from the right hand is echoed in something else. So it's it's rarely about the junk, you know.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's, I don't know how, yeah, because this is like a public video,
Yeah,
how much I should talk about erotic art and
you can talk about it.
different things.
We're not.
But
I mean,
yeah,
if
because, I do think that, there's some really great artists out there that do erotic art that I've seen. Um, but yeah, they're able to convey a lot, and their lines are interesting and their command of everything. It's not, they just I don't know. I guess with anything, it's like a combination of different little factors that come together to make something really grab your eye.
yeah. Well, it is. They are. there's all the things working together to make an interesting picture, and it's not just about the junk. And
Right.
even if it is about the junk, if that's what, you know, the person is interested in, the artist, and the artist is really good, the artist will add or depict aspects of the junk that is above and beyond the sexual element of it. I mean, it could still be sexy and very erotic, but it can also be really, really good. You know, it can be beautifully drawn, um, and often you find that it's that, you know, bright red ear that makes the drawing really good and really hot at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's yeah, there's that element like you know, what you can find arousing or
Right.
not is kind of almost a separate issue from the drawing itself, you
Yeah.
know. Like you could find something arousing in a drawing that's where somebody's completely clothed, you know.
Yeah. Well, I have drawn. I've learned to through drawing people and drawing people's fetishes and interests and all that kind of stuff. I've learned that um, I may not personally be interested in lace underwear and big black boots, but having drawn lace underwear on other people and big black boots on other people, or sometimes both on the same person, I have learned not to just dismiss that entirely and thinking it's weird. I think, okay, well, as I'm drawing, I talk to the person, well, what is it about lace that you like? And they tell me, and I'll ask another question, they'll tell me more. And hopefully the information I'm getting from them will end up in my drawing somehow. Um, you know, if they say I really, really, really am turned on by the little satin bow on the top of my crotchless panties, and I'll say, okay, I see that now. Now that you mention it, I do see that little bow, and I'll draw that little bow. And because I know that that's something that they find really, really interesting, I'll pay more attention to it, and I might exaggerate the highlights of it or something. And but by connecting with that model and their interests, I've become a much more um, open-minded, I guess, in my own, not personally in what I do, but in, I used to dismiss all sorts of stuff saying, I don't understand it, it's crazy. I'm not interested in learning any more about lace or boots. But talking, by talking to these people and drawing them, I think, okay, I can see now, I understand why lace and boots are interesting to some people. And I bet they also like this. And I mentioned out loud, oh, I love that. They'd say, whatever that was. And then, so I learn things by doing that. I've run out of ink, so I'll be right back.
Oh, sure, okay.
You're in charge.
Oh, I'm in charge. Oh no. Let me see if there's any comments. Then I'll have something to talk about. Oh, look, Marilyn is here. Hi, Marilyn. How's it going? Are you still here? Why are you showing people your shopping list? Oh, shopping list. Marilyn is showing a shopping list? Let me look back here. Oh, it's hard to control my computer. Like that. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm just hanging out with Pierre, doing some drawing. It's a nice
Talk,
day.
talk,
I
talking
was I
about
was
your
talking to
life in the
Marilyn,
gutter.
darling.
Yes, I could hear.
Oh, and I'm gonna go
Hanging out
back
with
to
Pierre,
this
hanging,
tab.
hanging out with Pierre in the gutter.
Yes, indeed.
And we're looking at the gutter, but we're looking at the reflection of the stars in the gutter. So in a sense, we're we're almost doing the Oscar Wilde thing, looking at the stars, but I prefer to just keep my eyes on the gutter and the reflection. Okay, who's beeping me here?
You got beeped? I might have got beeped
Well,
too. Let me
okay,
see here.
maybe it's your beeping that's happening here.
Oh, it was my beep. I got
Your
a
beep.
beep here. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So, one of the things that happened a few days ago was a couple things actually. One was I had the Minneapolis version of the Urban Sketchers come out to my childhood home and draw it with me. And about 12 of them showed up, and we really had a good time, I think. Um, it's very overgrown. There's lots of trees and lots of leaves and a lot of overlapping, chaotic sort of elements. But people did a really, really good job of capturing it, I think. And I also was trying to capture it or to capture them capturing it. So, but I was a little distracted by the fact that evidently I put too much stuff down the sink without putting it through the garbage disposal or something, and the sink got clogged. So I was in the house sort of trying to plunger the sink and try to make sure the toilets weren't going to overflow or things like that. So I was a little distracted.
Yeah.
And
I would that's something I would love to join you with is the urban sketching stuff. That sounds really fun. That's something I'd like to do. But you
okay.
know, I live on the opposite coast, so I don't think I'll
Well,
be
but
joining your urban sketcher group anytime soon.
the Urban Sketcher is a worldwide organization.
Yeah, I joined the one that was in Pasadena when I lived out there, but it seemed like whenever they were meeting up, I wasn't available. And so
Well, what about where you are now?
I haven't looked into it. I have to look on Meetup. That's where I found them last time.
Oh,
But there should be an urban sketcher group out here. There's artists. Um, Ojai is
everywhere.
not far from here, and that's a big artist community. So I'm sure
Uh,
there's some urban sketchers. Yeah, it was fun when I first moved to town. You know, it was pre-COVID, and it was easier to find people, you know, that are interested in art and whatnot. Then once COVID hit, you know, I kind of just stopped looking. But now that restrictions are being lifted and whatnot, maybe I can look into some of the stuff again. That'd be fun.
well, even if it's, I can't remember. You're on Facebook, are you not, or not?
I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but
Okay.
not Facebook.
Well, there are Facebook groups that some are about fountain pens and typewriters and dogs and cats and all that other kind of stuff. But there are people who um, pen and ink or fountain pen sketchers or um, uh, gouache drawing group or and it's really fun to be a part of that. So what you should do is consider I think you can probably look at the posts without having to be a member of these things. Be a member of Facebook. You just go to your search engine, you'll find it. But they're really, really fun to see, certain people draw, and you end up following or looking forward to seeing another drawing that they do. And so we had 12 urban sketchers here the other day, and there was even the first person that came. I walked out of the driveway to the end of the driveway to invite her in, and there was a big sign I put outside, so they could see that this was the right driveway, and it said Urban Sketchers. And this young boy, eight or nine, I don't know, years old, was walking by with his Ukrainian nanny, and she asked what was going on because she saw the sign that said Urban Sketchers. And I described what we were, and I said, "Do you like to draw?" And the little kid said yes. And so I said, "Well, why don't you come on in and we'll draw?" So they both came in. I gave them pens or pencil and paper, and they drew for about a half hour. And the other people stayed about 3 hours and drew and came up with some really nice drawings.
That's cool.
And
yeah, I've been kind of Facebook averse, but I can be kind of like, anti-Facebook, but why? Because if you use it for your own purposes, and then now Instagram's owned by Facebook anyway, so it's not like I don't already have some link to Facebook and all their whatever.
Some of the good things about Facebook with showing art is you are able to, I can upload a bunch of different drawings that are different proportions, and they'll all, be in the group. Where in Instagram, I can't put a vertical image and a horizontal image on the same posting.
Right.
Because they don't like that. So I think, I'll send you a link to the Minneapolis thing, or maybe there's a worldwide urban sketchers group
Oh,
as
okay.
well. And it's people from all over the world post things. It's not as busy as you'd think it might be, but I think most people like to post things to their local group, but it's quite fun.
That sounds great. Yeah, I was reading that Marilyn hates Instagram because of that reason. Yeah, you're kind of forced into a certain format. I don't mind using the square format, but yeah, if you have things that don't fit, it's kind of awkward.
If you have those round pegs, they don't fit in that square hole. Or
yes, true, totally true. Here, have you noticed that certain pens inspire you to draw and some don't? And sometimes it's like not clear why one does and one doesn't. It's like one pen is almost imbued with magic and the other one is not.
Well, that's very true, and I do find that out. Find that is true. Some pens, are much better for writing or for calligraphy than drawing, and some of them, make me want to draw in a particular way, and I might not be in that kind of a mood. So, I pick up a different. I mean, sometimes drawing doodly is one thing, and sometimes I have to draw more exactly, so I use a different kind of a pen.
So you have pens for exact drawing, and then you have pens for doodling. So you kind of categorize all your pens. Like this pen works great for this. This pen works great for that.
I don't categorize them as much as, like, I've been drawing almost all of these fishes right now with a Parker 45 with a steel.
Oh, neat.
Like, why am I doing that? Why am I wasting my talent on a 45? my
You
my
obviously like it,
extreme
right?
talent. But I'm not getting much of a variety. But because I'm using this water brush on top of it, I knew it was going to be dissolving the ink. And if I used a pen that had a broader, more flexible nib, I'd have way too much ink on it. But if I wasn't using the ink pen, water brush on top of this, I probably wouldn't be drawing with this pen because it's just too anemic. The line is too fine,
Oh,
so, but it puts out, if I'm going to do the water brush thing on top of it, if I did, like, for example, I'll draw the same fish. I'm doing two fish here that are essentially alike using two different pens. And now we're going to add the water brush and we'll just see how different they end up. This is going to be really dark, and one has sort of black ink and the other has blue ink. But because there's so little ink that's deposited on this pen, it remains pretty light. And here you can see there's quite a difference.
yeah.
And not to say that, this one isn't working, but if I had this darker pen and this water brush and I wanted to draw fish, I probably would draw them 3 times the size that I'm drawing them here. So my drawings would look different because I would say, okay, this pen wants me to draw big, or I'd know that I'd have to draw big if I'm going to use the water brush. Anyway. So the answer to your question is yes. They do make me do things. Instagram is owning to more video and not promoting photos as much.
Yeah, I guess that is true. I've noticed that like I liked Instagram when it was a simpler platform. Where it's just you just put your pictures there, and the pictures are there. There was a feed, there was the pictures. Now it's got all this other stuff like this and that and everything, all these choices, stories, this, the other thing. I just wanted simple, just pictures only kind of thing. But I know other people like having all that stuff, so it's cool. But
I haven't been watching what you've been doodling so much because I've been doodling myself.
oh yeah, should I
But
flip it around to see it right side
no,
up?
it's still really small on my screen. So I
Oh,
hope
should
you
I move
take
it up
pictures.
like this?
Well, no, just take pictures of it and post it on Instagram.
Okay, this one is just a massive scribble. I don't know who would be interested.
That's I
But
I
maybe I'll put it anyway.
I'm
This one
interested.
has a little more stuff going on there.
I just told you, Cedar, I'm interested. Your friend Pierre is interested in seeing your scribbles.
All right, cool. I'll post it.
I just filled up another pen here. See what sort of fish it wants to make.
This is a pen I was really excited about getting because I didn't have a pen, a more pen. This is a more pen.
Okay, yeah.
And it just it looked like it might be a good one, and it is. Sometimes it's kind of when you buy a pen on eBay randomly, you don't know what you're really going to get when it comes.
No,
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. So
well,
I was excited about this one because it inspires me to draw. It's one of those pens that makes me want to draw.
yeah. Moors are good pens, except their nibs are often really sort of fragile.
Mm.
So they tend to crack, not up by the heart breather hole, but more back by the stern where it's inside of the pen. So just
Do you mean the heel crack thing?
the heel of the pen, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, where it comes all the way up through the numbers and the lettering on the
Yeah.
nib up
Yeah.
through to the vent hole, and then it's destroyed.
You got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen lots of pens like that, and I actually have a couple pens that have cracks like that. But I got a bunch of kind of pens that were a mess at a swap meet once, and a few of them had those heel cracks. Uh, so I guess you can still use them as long as it doesn't crack all the way up to the vent hole and split in half, right? Basically, right?
Well, they're on borrowed time. It's
They're on
just
borrowed time.
the the I just think that maybe the problem is more exacerbated by people who fix the pens and move the nib in and out, and by rocking it back and forth, you're sort of adding stress to that part of the nib. So maybe if you don't do that much, they'll last longer. But I just know that they're relatively weak.
Yeah, well, I don't like to pull a nib or knock it out or anything unless I have to. I like it the way it was set in from the first place, like whenever the person put it together in the 20s or whatever. I like if it still has that set to it, I like to keep it. I don't want to change it.
Well, there's some people in the hobby and the user world. I won't mention their names, Marilyn Darling, but who love to, they don't love to, but they're just very keen on, taking the pens apart and cleaning out the old ink before they add new ink. And some people take the pen completely apart, and like Marilyn might do, and other people do too. Marilyn, I mean, there's many people that do it, but anytime you do that, you really do have to be careful because there's stresses that are being made on the metal. You can't help that from happening, and you just have to be very, very careful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that one of the easiest ways even to destroy a pen is to restore it, because like just opening the pen to put a new ink sac on, you're taking a risk of busting the barrel open,
Yeah.
and then that's a problem or whatever. I mean, I think opening the pen is like a really dangerous activity.
Generally, yes. Now, there's a way to prolong the life of your pen is never to clean it, I suppose. Uh, Another way is to never let it get dirty, which doesn't sound like very much fun. The plumber was here, and I said, "Is there anything that we should do with our, to keep you from returning to us?" And he said, "Yes, don't put any food down your sink." And I said, "Even the garbage disposal?" And he said, "Yes, even the garbage disposal. Don't put the food down your sink." Um, and so, well, what fun is having a garbage disposal? You know.
That's the truth. Well, like there's this Japanese like idea. Like there's this, how well, the tea ceremony and whatnot. And
Yeah.
anyway, there's this story that the tea bowl, there was a very cherished tea bowl, and it cracked, right?
Yeah.
And people were upset or whatever. And then this Buddhist monk was like, "Well, the crack was already there." So even before it cracked, the crack was already there.
Yes.
Because like all these things, like the crack's already in this nib, but I'm
Yes.
going to enjoy it until it falls apart and the crack makes it unusable.
Yes. Well,
Those are these old things, like they've had 100 years to become embrittled and, whatever.
yeah. Well, I think general use, uh, general thoughtful use is not going to damage a pen. Um, taking a pen, normally when people would buy a pen back in the olden days, they buy a bottle of ink. And as long as they keep using the same color ink and same brand, they'll never have to clean it. You know, it's just going to, every time they refill it, it's essentially cleaning it. But with calligraphers and journal keepers these days, they love to change ink colors and stuff. And you don't want to write with orange ink if there's a drop, a molecule of blue ink still in your pen. So they take the entire pen apart and make sure all of the parts are ink free and put it all back together and then put the orange ink in. But all of that is changing the pen. You can't take a pen apart and wash it without taking one little atom, at least, of the material away. So you keep putting it back in and taking it out and washing it, putting it back in, taking it out. You know, it's all the parts are going to become a little looser than they were before. And or they're going to have stress fractures on them and things like that. So if you want to write with 10 different colors of inks, have 10 pens. That's my
Yeah, no, I agree. I've even learned, because I haven't been using vintage pens for a super long time, like maybe 3 years or so. So
Mhm.
not a super long time, but I've learned like you don't have to, like rinse them and rinse them and rinse them and rinse them and pull the lever over and over and over. You just got to get them generally clean, just clean enough. Like every last bit of ink doesn't have to come out of the pen for it to be clean. It's clean if you just,
No,
and then
that's
I've learned too that like, if you can fill it, like you can, dump where, or, do, a couple times with it and then dump it, put some clear water in it and just kind of let it sit there with the clear water in there. If there's like some, dried residue or whatever inside there, it'll
yep,
liquefy. And then the next day you just empty it and then shake it out into a paper towel
yep.
and it's good, you know? I mean,
Well,
that's my experience of it. Rather than like just cranking that lever, I feel like I'm just gonna break the lever if I just constantly crank it like that,
yeah,
'Cause it's already fragile and old.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like if you use a good water soluble ink, it doesn't matter anyway. It re-wets and it's pretty good about coming out. I don't know. What do you
Well,
think
the
about
other
that?
thing is there are many artists and calligraphers and journal keepers and stuff that don't, maybe they are buying these inks that have, the sheen and the little uh, iridescence and all of this extra stuff, which isn't as water soluble as, our Waterman and Schaefer and Mont Blanc inks are. So again, there's nothing wrong with them uh, being mindful of that. But again, filling it up with water, rinsing it out, soaking it in water overnight, you know, emptying it and then putting new ink in, I think is probably going to get most of what you need out rather than taking it apart.
Well, I would
Um,
also say if you want to use those funky inks, just use a modern pen rather than uh, a vintage pen. Or, like the eyedroppers are easier to rinse out. I mean, because you could just open them and then squeeze, use a syringe to rinse out the barrel. But it
yeah,
probably will still get all clogged up in there. But you can use like a bulb syringe and put that at the end of the thing and squeeze it out. So
yeah.
maybe use an eyedropper, right? But those eyedroppers, sometimes they leak and they're not as reliable as the ink sac pens, I think. I don't know. Depends on the eyedropper, I guess, right? What do you think about
Well,
that?
even the eyedroppers, if you use an eyedropper, I think a lot, you to get the ink in them, you unscrew the section from the barrel, and then you fill it and you screw it back in. Well, each time you unscrew it and screw it back in, you're weakening the hard rubber. Threads are going, and it's going to start to leak. So we just have to face it. We're all doomed.
That's so true, because I have an eyedropper that does that. It leaks from the joint. I think that's just because it's 100 years old and people have been opening it. It's a heavily used pen. It's not like a new old stock pen or something. It's something that people really used back in the day. It's got a lot of use, and so yeah, that joint is no longer ink tight. So yeah, so that explains why that pen is like that. Because I don't see any cracks in the pen.
No,
Or anything like that. It's just
a little loose. A friend of mine, calligrapher friend of mine in Boston, uses an eyedropper fill pen, and he ended up putting some plumber's tape on the inner cap. The thread, and he said that helped. And when he told me that, I thought, well, it's going to crack the barrel for sure.
Oh, because of the pressure, right?
But it didn't yet. And I had a bunch of extra sections for him for a Waterman 12, and I said, just take these. One of these might work better, but might, they're all lathed by hand or turned by hand, so they're not all. None are identical.
Yeah.
So Mr. Cedar, my brother will be back in about an hour, and if I don't have the 4 days worth of dirty dishes cleaned, he will know that I'm a slob. So I'm just turning the camera around here to say goodbye to you and the rest of the people in person.
Okay, I guess. Well, mine's a bit of a mess, so I'll try to just go down here and say goodbye like this. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Bye, Pierre. Nice to hang out.
Yeah, post those things on Instagram.
Okay, I'll post them. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.